this photograph that you saw earlier, it started a bit of discussion. If anyone knows, I looked at it and assumed, because it looks like an office building, that was when WSGN built an FM on Red Mountain that's now occupied by Channel 13. Discussion is that that's the transmitter building at Fair Park, and Mike is shaking, agreeing, because it doesn't look like most transmitter buildings I ever entered, okay? Most of those were block and, keep the varmints and the people out. So, okay.
The building was cinder block, but it had a glass front area.
Okay, that's very rare just for
public viewing.
Okay, that's very rare. So I knew SGN had built an FM on Red Mountain, which is now occupied by Channel 13. So I just assumed that's what it was, and the tower in the back. After we said that, I realized, oh, wait a minute, there's not an antenna, FM antenna. So it may be correct. I don't believe I ever went to the transmitter site, Mike. Okay. WSGN is remembered in Birmingham with those of a certain age and lack of hair or hair color as being one of the more powerful radio stations of the late 60s era. It all came in 1963 when the management of WSGN hired a young gentleman from Mobile, Alabama by the name of Jim Tabor to be the program director. Jim had come to Mobile and taken a AM station at the high end of the band and turned it into a powerful rocker for Mobile. WSGN said, we got to have this guy, and brought him up. Okay? So Jim Tabor came to Birmingham, completely changed WSGN. Until that point, WSGN had sort of just been middle of the run kind of AM station, being constantly beaten by WYDE, which was the top station at the time. Jim made such an impact in Birmingham that WYDE went country. Okay, he was a very interesting people. I learned a lot about radio from him. This was the building when, before Jim Tabor arrived. It's on 7th Avenue South. It's got to be the most lackluster location I've ever seen for a radio station. But after Jim arrived, they moved to the penthouse of the City Federal Building. And this is a picture of the penthouse now, which, for an interesting fact, also serves as the elevator room for the City Federal Building. So how the engineers got the noise out, I'll never know. You were looking, the side facing to the left is facing south toward Homewood. And where you see those big glass windows in the middle was the air studio. Okay? And the area off to the right of that was the production studio. So they were side by side, and because we're compressed for time here. Oh, I forgot. Jim Tabor changed. When Tabor came to town, the disc jockeys were known as the Southern Gentlemen. Well, Tabor fixed that real quick, became the WSGN Good Guys. The Good Guys symbol was, he stole it from KLIF in Dallas, Texas, who stole it from WNCA in New York, who stole it from someone else, because back then nobody had thought about copyright and trademark. So, and first rule of radio, if it sounds good, steal it, okay? So WSGN Good Guys, these are the surveys, and this is from the early Jim Tabor issue once a week. The survey came out, had all the top 40 songs. Jim introduced a very top 40, fast-paced, high dynamic. They put reverb on the announcers, jingle after jingle after jingle, promotion, promotion, promotion. Always WSGN 610, 610, whatever. To give you an idea, there was a sign where the jock looked out. On the wall there was a sign that said, "Set it up, say it, shut it." And that was the philosophy of WSGN, fast-paced all of the time, and it worked. They wiped out the market for a long time. This is the Air Studio. This is 1974, but other than the microphone, it looks like, just like it did in the Jim Tabor era. He left in 1968. The console there is a Collins console, which is the only console I ever saw where the switches went up and down instead of left and right. So I don't know about Collins. What you see are two turntables on the left, and I do not remember what they were. A stack of cart machines on the jock's right. This is from after Jim left, because Jim had two horns, bicycle horns mounted on the top of the microphone that he honked, and nobody touched those horns except Tabor if you wanted to keep your job. So those horns are missing, so I know the microphone is an RCA 77DX. The cart machines are over here on the left, and they ran all of the spots, all of the jingles, everything. They had 6 cart machines where normal stations had about 2. They could tie them up so the cart machines would just play one thing right after the other, and the disc jockey didn't have to punch individual buttons. In the background, you can see glass up there. That is the production studio where they produced all of the commercials. Also, it could be used for a emergency backup, studio in case something failed in here. At the time, WSGN was a heavy union station. All of the engineers were union. So in the daytime, there was a union engineer on presence in the studio. And the rules were that the jocks could run everything, where some union stations, the union guys had to run the control board. The disc jockeys could run everything, except when they went into the production room, you couldn't hit the start button on the record. That was a union job. So you could build a whole thing for a commercial, but when it came to record it, you had to go get the engineer. And I was told, make sure, push that button. Had a good thing with the unions. It was just that it was a union rule, and the engineers at the transmitter site were union. Well, one thing about radio is described by Orson Welles, the theater of the mind, because you could take a very simple setup, execute it correctly with the correct number of people, and it sounded projected out to the world. So studios were very crowded, very cramped, because the guys had to work back then. Now it's all on computer. You don't have, that was a laborious job, 4 hours of on air, and you were tired just because it was constant motion. This is the newsroom that looked right into the studio. WSGN was very heavy in the news because the FCC required it. That's the news director, Dave Perry. And behind Dave, there was a whole wall of monitors that monitored all the fire frequencies, police, and everything, so they could go out. But one of the union regulations was, yes, you could not press the start button to record in the production studio, but the newsroom could, because they had to record things instantly when they were occurring. So it was just a union. It's a good place. Okay, the smaller 16, we'll wrap it up real quick. As time went on, WBRC changed to top 40, started challenging WSGN. Then FMs came on the air. The killer was WBRC put an FM on the air, Kicks.
Where do you live?
And our good friend Don Keith, the Brennan family of WBOK, put a rocker on the air. WAPI went top 40 or went smooth music, whatever. Anyway, started decreasing the audience for WSGN. So the audience slowly went down as all of AM radio went down when FM finally caught on. WSGN kind of left the rock era, went into, instead of the big 610, it became Music 610 and then something else. And understand the last song they played was a Guy Lombardo, and that just breaks the heart of anybody that ever had anything to do with the big 610. So, but the call letters stayed alive. A public station in Gadsden used them for years, and now WSGN is alive again on a small signal out of Lake Martin, playing music for all the retired Birmingham people that remember WSGN. And they use a lot of the promotion. You can see the call lines from the old 1960s Tabor era. And I don't know if they use the jingles, but I know they're playing Top 40, and you can listen to the Beach Boys all over again. So anyway, that's sort of the latter history of the peak and the fall. And now the signal is very weak because it was all damaged when the ground plane was damaged when they redid Fair Park. And so, like most AMs, you can turn it off tomorrow, and I'm not sure many people would know what it's going. But anyway, Ron, that wraps up my presentation.
All right, we're out of time, so I want to encourage you to go to the YouTube and look up the Alabama Historical Society webpage, and you'll find the video on there, along with several other interesting videos. So thanks for coming. We got to get out of here.